Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Pauline Jo. I am a therapist here at Lartey Wellness Group. Um, Luckily, we have a great group today, so I'm definitely really excited. I was thinking actually last night as I was scrolling mindlessly on social media, what are the effects of social media and mental health? So I'd like to actually start off by asking you guys if you guys believe that there is an effect on our mental health with, say, any type of or too much consumption of social media.
I I it depends. I would say it depends on the person and if there is an excessive use. But there are definitely some downsides that can be harmful to the mental health um, with the social media. It can cause anxiety symptoms. A lot of that comparisons kind of going on. Depending on what you allow on your feed or your page, you can encounter things that can impact you, that can shock you, that can make you sad. So depending on how immersed you are in that world, um, as far as kind of and what content you're taking in, I think it really depends on the content you take in. Now, if you follow all positive pages like self-help or even, small businesses, like if you're not really in the drama of anything, you use it more for shopping purposes or business purposes, it can be totally different. Um, but honestly, personally, I think it can have an influence depending on who you are and what kind of content you're taking in and how that kind of makes how that makes your thoughts go.
That's a good point, Brittany. What I'm hearing is it can go either way depending on one, who you are, as well as generally who you're following or who you're, say, connected or friends with. Does anybody else have an opinion on if social media affects our mental health or not?
I do. I certainly have a point of view. And what Brittany said is also, is very true. Depends on the person. Um, and I know of several individuals who seem to have developed this impulse to always be on the phone. They have a hard time concentrating. They have a hard time paying attention to others, looking up. They're always tapping, touching their phone constantly. And I think it's a major problem for a lot of young people that I see not able to engage with others because they're constantly on their phone. They're always looking at their phone. And I would say that personally, one of my young adult sons, that's what he does on a regular. And I have to say, when you come in my home, if we're going to have time together, you need to put your phone away because you're not paying attention to me. You're constantly on the phone. And I will say it can impact your mental health in so many ways. And then it can also impact you unintentionally. You can be minding your own business or looking for something particular and something can pop up that can just pull you away from what you were doing. And cause your attention to be drawn there. And it's designed to do that. There are people advertising. There are all lots of different things that are on there in social media that's vying for your attention. And so you have to really be focused and really exercise self-control. Because if you don't, it can be disastrous. And I've known young people who've dealt with bullying through social media, all the negative things. I personally use it for good. And I personally use it for my good, things that are productive for my own mental health. I do meditation. There's people on social media that I follow that are doing positive things. I also use it to connect with my family members in a positive way, wish them happy birthday and things like that, staying connected to them. But mine is for positive energy. All those negative things I try to keep out, but every once in a while stuff drops in and you're like, what is this? This isn't even something I was looking for. Where did this come from? And then it can draw your attention, but you really have to exercise self-control. I say that emphatically. Self-control is really the key to your mental health. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Yvonne. You bring up a very strong point that not only does it, say, affect our attention spans, especially, say, what we see in our younger clientele, but as well, it's a matter of self-discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll definitely get into that topic further. But again, thank you for.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any, say, opening thoughts on if social media is bad for you, bad for your mental health or not?
I definitely agree with Brittany and Yvonne because how like the content selection is really, really important when we are actually reading looking at the social media. Actually, very interesting thing, like a homework I give my clients, just like leave your phone away. Just not look at your phone to help, especially during the pandemic. Because when we're at a pandemic, we're kind of social isolation, like quarantine at home. It's more easily for us to focus on news and things. And usually like the news are actually kind of terrible for a very long time. And also like I do remember that when I take a communication course when I was an undergraduate, and they said like the news are all biased. So even though they're news, they're supposed to show the facts, but all the words and all the pictures and photos are actually shows the perspectives of the writer, the author, or the the photo taker. So which means all the things we have watched are not the facts. And actually, but when we are actually taking like the information that others want us to see, it's easy for us to view like negatively or like feel negatively. And like, so that's why like I encourage my clients to put their cell phone down when they're actually like especially at the pandemic. And it's very interesting, a lot of my clients who come after the pandemic, like new clients, are actually having like anxiety because of news. And they just specifically tell me like they don't have anxiety when they do not watch the news, but actually when they saw like, for example, like the bad news on the phone, so just like have anxiety and just worry about their health, worry about like their safety and things. And I think it's very related, and because it can be a trigger. So the news itself is a trigger, and how to help our clients to like redirect themselves after they watch the bad news, and like Yvonne said, like practice like the self-control, like self-discipline, and like Brittany said, like how to help them to select the news that like show more positive things. Yeah, this is definitely we need to help our clients to do.
That's awesome to hear you were able to take a communications class in your undergrad. I'm sure you learned a lot. You're right. Social media can be fun, but it can absolutely be a trigger, whether we wanted it to be a trigger or whether we most times, we're just instantly wired to go on social media. We start scrolling, we see one thing, and then it makes us get anxiety, start to overthink or whatnot. Courtney or Yu Yang, do either of you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I really agree with everyone just said, and also I just want to go by CEO that especially during the pandemic, people are just really at a bad mood, and it would easily for us to have some like extreme comments, even though it's the news is like really like fair or it's not bad news around, like, but people easily to express their rather emotional thoughts and biased thoughts on the platform, and it may be like cause the cyberbullying, and it would like be harmful for the people's like mental health. And also when we just kind of like observed in the social media and the like news just kind of has the distance from our real life, it will just add on the like social anxiety and yeah, something related to the just distance from the real life connection. And
That's actually a really strong point that you bring up there, Yu Yang. As we are moving towards a more technologically dependent world, sometimes it can be hard to separate, what is our real physical life, and then, how do we show up on social media? How do we, say, perceive others and how they show up because of social media? Courtney or Ngozi, did either of you have anything else to add before I move on to the next question?
I'm actually in agreement with everyone as well in regards to it ultimately, I guess, being the individual's ability to have that self-control in terms of what they view, their purposes for utilizing social media. And I also think, and it may be just because of certain things that I follow on social media, I honestly feel that there has been a slight increase in the amount of either services or even down to like applications that people can download that will assist more with mental health, or at least focusing more on like mindfulness and um, things like that. And I think it's been like that honestly since the pandemic. It seems like a lot of people are really starting to focus in on that a lot more, at least from my perspective.
Courtney, I apologize. On my end, you had cut out. You had said people are focusing on what more?
I'm sorry, are you able to hear me a little clearer now?
It still kind of comes in and out, but yes.
I'm sorry. Yes, I was just saying, I think since the pandemic, I think that social media has increased their abilities to focus more on self-care in terms of like providing more resources and in terms of providing even if it's an application that someone can download, but just something where people can start to focus more on that.
I heard you a little clearer now. So, in a positive way, in your perspective, social media offers us resources to utilize more self-care. So not only, again, are we on it to connect with our friends, to see what's going on in the world, but now there is that opportunity of, say, self-care in some form.
Yes, exactly.
I'm not sure if that's Frank or in Gazi, but
It's Ngozi. Good morning, everyone. I so when it comes to social media, for me, I believe social media does have its pros and its cons. Based on what I've heard so far, I pretty much agree. I wasn't able to hear Brittany's response, but I definitely agree with what everyone has said. I totally agree with Miss Yvonne has said in terms of when it comes to self-control. I believe, on social media, depending on who you follow and what you want on your timeline and your feed is it's pretty much going to go like based on, I guess, your emotions or whatever. So if you follow things that's bringing you positive energy and positive outlook on things, it's something that is going to be pretty much a pro for you. But sometimes I feel like even though you may follow certain things do pop up, and it might trigger you, or it might put you in a bad mood, or it might be something that you want to find more about. You dig deeper, and then next thing you know, you're angry, upset, kind of like watching the news. I personally hate the news because I feel like every time I go on there, it's nothing ever positive. It's always something negative. It's always something, going on. And then at the same time, it's a lot of things that they don't show on the news that I do find on social media, which is helpful because it keeps me aware and up to date on certain things. But I feel like, again, based on, what you're following, it's either going to bring you that positivity or that negativity. But sometimes we can't control that. So being self-aware of yourself and your emotions and having that self-control within yourself is extremely important. And yeah, that's pretty much my outlook on social media. It could be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. And I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon because technology is just expanding every single day. And a lot of people do tend to go on the media to look for things more than opening a book or, going to an occasion or something. Everybody goes on the media, whether it's for research, whether it's for entertainment, like no matter what. So I just feel like just being self-aware of yourself and others is important.
That's very powerful that you mentioned, Guzzy, that we are expanding in technology. And so now it's not like, say, I don't know how old everyone is, but it's not like, say, like the early 2000s, where if we even had to get on the internet, we had to go through dial-up. It took a long time. And so we were kind of just focused on getting onto what we were getting on, as opposed to now, everyone has data, everyone has Wi-Fi. So it's so easy to get into that trap of, oh, I'm just going to go on for 5 minutes. And then now I spent 4 hours looking at puppies, or I spent 4 hours researching this one topic. And now I've forgot what I'm supposed to do in my real life. So then I guess my next important question is, why or why not do you guys think that boundaries with others and with ourselves are important when it comes to technology?
I think you just posed a really key point there that answers that question of accessibility. Through technology, not only do you have more accessibility to other people, and through like text messages and things like that, it's not like just making a phone call anymore. You can reach anybody at any time of the day. And not only that, going back to the social media point of posting, because it is such an open forum, anybody really can post anything they want. So it's kind of the boundaries there of what you want, how you want to be viewed. Somebody mentioned earlier about how you're viewed on social media. And depending on what somebody posts can change that view. So it's kind of multiple boundaries need to be set to protect yourself and to be able to have time for that self-care, as well as, I mean, even in work hours, and trying to make sure that people aren't accessing you during work so that you can focus, which has, I've heard reported by a few people has been an increased problem since the start of the pandemic and everybody's working at home.
Brittany, I appreciate that word, protection. It is important that we obviously always protect ourselves physically, but there is the emotional component. Funny enough, I was listening to a podcast. I can't 100% relate to those women in that, they have millions of subscribers on YouTube and they live this like glamorous life, but I relate to them in that we are the same age. And so they were talking about mental health, and something that really stood out to me is that they were saying, because you said, social media definitely gives us access to people way more than we used to. It's not just, okay, I'm going to call on the phone and I'm going to wait for Brittany to answer and then maybe she'll, respond back. It's like, we know, especially working from home, everyone's on their phone all the time. So what happens is, if say, and we've all been through something, we're all going through something, the pandemic, sometimes we're not in the mood to have a conversation about, again, kind of the puppies, or not in the mood to, not that we're not in the mood, but we're just not accessible to be able to be there for our friends because we're struggling to be there for ourselves. So then what happens is, if like I text Brittany and then I see that she was on social media, and then Brittany doesn't respond back in 7 days, it affects my mental health, because then I'm like, wait, like, did I say something to Brittany that upset her? Like, are we not friends anymore? All of those, like, say, like thoughts, when really maybe Brittany doesn't want to talk to anyone, but she was on social media for work, or she had to go on social media because she was looking for something that she's like writing about, right? And so social media sometimes, because it makes us so accessible to people, and that's great, it can harm us in that it makes others believe that we are always emotionally accessible, when in reality, we need a break from everything as much as everybody else.
Yeah, I agree with you that the social media might bring a lot of emotional burden for us, because if we don't set boundaries, we don't have a time for us to just relax ourselves, because we have our own emotional issue need to like process, need to deal with. But if we just open there to deal with all the like people's negative feelings and negative emotions, it's just like make us overwhelmed emotionally. And another point I would like to say is that on social media is there's a lot of like other informations, like your friend is going to have a like vacation and buy some stuff you really wanted to have, and she has like living a really fancy life, something like that, and it makes people easier to like compare yourself to others, and it would be rather stressful, and sometimes it would add on the anxiety. But if you just set up boundaries and do not to to focus on those kind of informations, it will be helpful for us to just focus on ourselves and do not try to compare yourself with others.
Thank you, Yu Yang. You're definitely right. It makes it a lot harder for us to take a break. And also, um, I probably should have researched this before our discussion, but I would imagine social media increases some people's depression or depressive symptoms. In that, as you mentioned, we're working really hard at Lartey Wellness, and then we're scrolling, and then we see someone having this glamorous vacation in, say, Europe. Europe just opened up, and so you're seeing a bunch of people travel, and then I could feel really great about my life, and I could feel great about the work that I do at Lartey, which I do, but you'll see someone on this glamorous vacation, and then suddenly my self-worth, or I feel like my self-worth, goes down for no reason. I don't want to go to Europe, example, but it feels that way because like someone's posting, and it looks so magical, or it looks so like glitz and glam. So I appreciate that. Does anybody else have any thoughts on boundaries on social media?
I have a short comment. Can you see me? Pauline, hold on. I have a short comment.
Yeah.
And I just want to piggyback on what Yu Yang said about, when they're setting those boundaries. There are individuals that I know, and it's almost like they post everything about their life, everything. It's almost nauseating for me. And I just say, why do they need to put everything everywhere they go, everything they eat, this, just that kind of thing. So set boundaries. I've had to unfriend some people because it just doesn't make sense to me for everything to be on social media, your feet, just all these other things that they put on there. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I've unfriended some people because some things just doesn't make sense to me. And the boundary was needed because it was just becoming nauseating. Some of the things that people put on social media, you're wondering what their real life is really like, because it just doesn't seem realistic, a lot of the things that people are doing. And maybe that's what they need for themselves to feel validated. I don't know for sure, but just what I'm seeing, I just unfriend some people for my own mental health as well. And it's not that I don't like those people. I like them. Some of them I love, but it's just some things, it's just why. So yes, that is a boundary. There are boundaries that we should set for ourselves and other people. Sometimes looking at people's lives, we don't know if it's real or not. It can be fictitious. People can be anything they want to be, create any person that they want to be on social media because they have that open access to get on there whenever they want. Social media is open to us 24/7. And I myself, much older than all of you, television used to go off. It doesn't anymore. So yes, boundaries are very important for your mental health.
Vaughn, that's a very important thing, kind of maybe on a deeper level, right? So we do have the ability to be anyone we want behind the screen. We've got all of these editing apps. We've got the ability that like no one's right in front of our face to be able to say, call us out like you would say in person. And so this actually brings me to my next question in regards to persona. I'm wondering, what do you guys think about the idea that, say, social media can be dangerous? So, for example, in my grad school years, I worked in domestic violence, human trafficking, and sexual assault. It's kind of like that trio. And I took a training on how, due to the increase of social media, it's actually increased, say, the recruitment of human trafficking in the United States. Because, people are, desperate for money. There's been a huge job loss. We're all at home, stuck on our social media. And we're all really yearning for that emotional connection that in a sense we've lost. So with my example, I'm wondering if you guys can think of any dangers, and in what ways could we maybe educate our clients of, say, those dangers of social media.
Absolutely. I would say, hi Pauline, sorry, hi everybody. I would say even just the aspect of trying to keep up, some people run into debt because they're trying to keep up with what they see online, as opposed to focusing on what's in front of them, or their own life and how they can make the most out of what they have. Even though they can't do what other people do or have what other people have, but how can you make the most of what you have? Reminding themselves of what's more important. It's good to have material things and stuff like that, but remind yourself of what's more important than material things. Remind yourself that people only show you the highlights of their life.
Not everybody is transparent online. There are some people that are transparent, but even with the transparency, you don't always know the depth of whatever it is they're going through. So just remember that, we're all human beings, and there will be some people who have more than us, that's just life. There will be some people who have more than us. And there's no other way to lessen that, but just to know that we can also make the best of our lives out of what we have while striving to get what it is that we desire to get. So just like, the aspect of keeping up with the Joneses and trying to, some people run into debt or depression, or, they get tired because that's not even, trying to run after the life that they don't have.
Thank you for that. You bring up a really strong point that that social media is a highlight reel. And so sometimes it makes us want to keep up with other people, or it makes us want things that we didn't necessarily think we wanted. And so when I kind of bring it back to the mental health context, I actually didn't know this till I was a full-time therapist. But one sign of bipolar 1 or 2, I believe, I'm almost sure I'm accurate, but is mania, right? And so how do we know that our clients are having a manic episode? One way is through excessive spending. And I think Brittany might have mentioned it earlier, but it's so easy to just get on social media. If, say, we're not looking at the news or we're not keeping up with friends, it's so easy. There are ads everywhere. Everything says, just click here, save money, click here. And
Yeah.
you can do, what is it called, Afterpay now. So like you can really afford anything. And while that's wonderful, and while shopping is fun, that can be maybe dangerous for ourselves or even our clients, that you may have certain behaviors that you would have not been doing, say, if social media didn't exist. Does anybody else have any thoughts on any dangers with social media and mental health?
I think that all the points made so far are really great points, and really strong points of the potential dangers behind kind of technology and social media as a whole. And I'd have to agree with them and their kind of increased risk through this accessibility in social media. But another potential danger that could greatly impact your mental health as well as even a career is the effect on your reputation. So depending on what you're posting, different jobs may respond different ways, or even it can either hinder, or kind of like everybody's mentioning that you can create this persona where your life looks so glamorous. But in the same sense, depending on what either you're posting or others are posting about you, it really can hinder your reputation.
Brittany, that definitely kind of went right past my mind, but that's so true. Social media is also used, say, especially like LinkedIn, definitely used for employers. It's used for, say, our future. And so our reputation is important. And sometimes people will post things thinking, oh, it won't affect us, but it really can. Now I don't know. I know in specific in social work, like the code of ethics, and the NASW, they've been working to define more of like, what's appropriate on social media, what's not appropriate on social media, what can maybe get you in trouble, what can't get you in trouble. And so I guess my last question is, with the things we've defined today, with just overall how it can impact our mental health positively or negatively, how we need to set boundaries, and how things can be dangerous towards mental health behaviors, I'm wondering, how would you guys have this conversation, or would you even be comfortable having this conversation with your clients about, say, the impacts of social media on our mental health?
I will, to a degree, because I tend to have this discussion almost like every day with friends and family, and even just with myself. Trying to be realistic with myself, and making myself to reminding myself of what's important. So I think honestly the best way to kind of go about it to make it know that it's relatable is maybe kind of conversation style, as opposed to looking like you're telling them, oh, it's not that much of a big deal, but making them see the dangers and impacts, but also like, I guess some self-disclosure as well, how you've kind of, well, whoever is on social media, not all therapists will probably be on social media, but kind of what you've noticed in yourself or an interaction with other people, how, what you've done has kind of worked for you, just I guess kind of like a conversation style to kind of like bring them in to reality and make them see like, okay, it's not just me that feels or thinks this way, but there's other people as well.
Thank you for that point. Does anybody else have any ideas? Do they feel comfortable or uncomfortable to kind of confront these ideas in therapy?
I've actually talked about social media with a couple of my clients because some of them have suffered with anxiety, and that subject matter came up, and how it has affected them. So we have talked about it in length periodically when that they have triggers regarding something said, how they're, how people are affecting them. And we talked about some strategies and some tips and things to do to monitor that. So yes, absolutely, we have talked about it. I'm very comfortable talking about it because I see how it affects people around me in different ways. And then I have one client who's using it for dating purposes. We also talked about it. And so I just kind of reminded him about his values and what's important to him, and to keep that in mind as he is looking to date someone and what that means for him, because his prior relationship, he did not bring his values into that. And so that was just very kind of detrimental for him in that previous relationship. So I just kind of gently remind him, remember what you said, your values are important to you and this is what they are. And so we kind of talked about it in that manner. And so he was very happy to, that we constantly talk about this, to keep this in mind as he is dating individuals, because he kind of shares with me those dates he's had and how they've come out for him. And so that's been a weekly discussion. So yes, absolutely. It's very important to think about that, and how social media is affecting you, whether it's negatively or positively. So absolutely, I'm very comfortable discussing that. So, but I let the client kind of lead and share with me what's going on with them as they're using it and how they're using it and what its purpose is, and if it's affecting them, positively or negatively, and what results from that, and what strategies they can use to combat those things. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne, for your participation. I know you're also at work. But I like how you mentioned that it is important that we kind of circle back in the session and we mention, say, their values. and we help our clients in terms of, say, social media. We help them see if that's conducive to their growth or their mental health. So say in another example, say we're working with a client and they're going through a breakup, right? They're distraught and they're like, Yu Yang, what do I do? Like, you're my therapist. I just don't know what to do. We want to gently bring it back to them and say, is stalking your ex on social media, your ex on social media, is that conducive towards your healing? Is like, what does that feel like inside when, say, you are, looking up your ex at 2 a.m. or whatnot? So it's good to bring it back to their values and really what their goal is.
Absolutely, Pauline Jo. Thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah, and I think to Yvonne's point as well, when working with a client, I guess like in terms of social media, you're gonna also highlight like, the good as well. And help them to manage how, like, just like she said, curating your feed to things that align with your values. As opposed to just following any and everybody, but curating your feed so that when you come on there, you don't feel anxious, like, what am I going to meet on this feed today? But you have an idea of who you follow and what to expect on your timeline, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook. You follow people that align with your goals. If you like comedy, I guess you follow comedy. If you like, things that align with your goals, to make them see, okay, there is a danger to it, but also a good to it. And this is how you can kind of find a balance and manage it to help you mentally when you do, want to take a mental break and go on social media to scroll, but at least you're not scrolling through endless things that are causing you anxiety or making you depressed, but you're curating your feed to align with your values.
You're right. The key word there is curating and giving our clients the power back that you have the decision to choose who you follow, or you have the decision to, click on what pages you want to. That being said, I had also thought about, and I'll definitely make this the last topic, about the fact that, there's so much information out there. I myself, I'm following a bunch of, say, therapists, whether I know in real life or I don't. And I'm noticing a lot of them have like a disclaimer at the top of their profiles on Instagram, say, for instance, that say, social media is not a replacement for therapy, right? And so I just want to make note that it's important that we let our clients know, and we also let our friends and our family know that, if they're going through something, that it's okay to come to a therapist, and that these posts are not meant to, say, cure us. They're meant to inspire us. But they're not, someone you met on Instagram will not be able, and even therapists say that too, they're not able to diagnose. They're not able to, assess for, your suicidality and none of those. So it's important to kind of bring it back and remind others that, social media is great and it's inspirational and it's so helpful and resourceful, but a lot of the work still has to happen in that one-on-one therapy session with your therapist. Did anyone have any closing thoughts or anything else that they wanted to add for today?
I have not talked about the social media issue with my clients yet, and it's really helpful for hearing all the thoughts and interventions and the way how you just talk this topic with your clients and how to link it with the treatment goals, treatment plans. Yeah, that's really helpful for me, and thanks for sharing.
I agree. I have definitely learned today more ways to facilitate this conversation in a way that shows we are caring and not in the place of we are judging our clients for, you know, whatever they're doing on social media. Well, I believe this concludes our time. As always, thank you guys for your wonderful conversation. And please feel free, you guys, to you know, send any emails of any resources that you guys ever find, and I'll be sure to do the same.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.